What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, man. We had the big announcement today. I know a few channels have already been talking about this happening eventually, but we got the official announcement today that Art Briles is going to be hired as the next Grambling State offensive coordinator. Grambling State AD Travian Scott made the official announcement today that he's going to be the offensive coordinator under head coach Hugh Jackson. And I know Scott, the AD for Grambling, talked to Pete Thamel of ESPN that he said he spent 10 days vetting Art Briles after Jackson brought him in as an option for the vacancy. And he had this statement for Briles, quote, "I'm rooted in fact. I know a lot of things are said and done. We felt it was appropriate to give him a chance to really redeem himself after understanding where the facts lie. I think the guy just wants to coach and lead men. We are not talking about a perfect situation or devaluing things done in the past and how it has affected people. He's sympathetic, he's empathetic about what went on." And so that's the statement that we got from Grambling. I believe that Art Briles is doing an interview with a local news station, and that's gonna be the official announcement coming from Grambling. But for me, man, you look at Briles, he hasn't coached in college football since May of 2016. That's when Baylor fired him and excused him of his or put him on permanent leave with intent to terminate a contract after an investigation about his role about a campus-wide sexual assault allegations. And this wasn't just a football team thing. This was campus-wide. This stemmed from the president to the AD to many people, and a lot of people lost their jobs, and it was a really horrible situation all around. But this all happened under Browse's tenure. He loses his job, but this past August, the NCAA announced that Baylor and ultimately Briles did not violate any bylaws or rules or have any infractions, but they did still call Baylor's handling of these allegations as quote a colossal failure. And ultimately Briles and Baylor reached a buyout, and they didn't I guess violate anything, but still it was still a giant misconduct on their part and a failure to report and handle sexual assault allegations appropriately in the eyes of the NCAA, the university, and etc. So, given all that, Grambling said they've done their research on his background. They believe he should get a second chance. Jay Hobson tried to hire him at Southern Miss. The president overruled it a while back. Art Briles has been coaching high school football recently. But Grambling felt like they have enough evidence to move forward with the hire. And, given that this was an extremely important piece of the puzzle for Hugh Jackson. This is his attempt to build up Grambling, bring them back to the top of the SWAC. And when you look at Art Briles, his name rings bells on the recruiting trail. His connection with electric and productive offenses, I think it's going to have a lot of Grambling fans extremely excited about the potential of this team moving forward. And in case you guys need a little bit of background, what are you getting in an Art Briles if you're a Grambling fan and you really don't know the history of him? He's had large success, guys, in the high school ranks and helped build Houston and Baylor into real contenders throughout his career. He's been identified as one of the best offensive minds in college football throughout his career. And that's a spot where Grambling really needed some improvement. I believe last year they had more interceptions than passing touchdowns. So you have Hugh Jackson now, you have Art Briles. There's no excuse for this offense to take a tremendous leap forward going into next season. Now, you look at his career, he has spent some time at Sweetwater High School, a 2A school at only 28 years old. He went 27-1 and had one tie in his career at Sweetwater. Then, he has another stop, didn't do as well, but he gets to Stephenville High School, and this is where it gets interesting for Art Briles. This is a 4A school. Before Briles steps in, guys, Stephenville had zero playoff appearances since 1952. Briles steps in, leads them to four state championships. He had a back-to-back state title run from 93 to 94, and then won two more back-to-back in 98 and 99. And in his career was 135, 29, and 2 at Stephenville High School, which had, like I said, zero playoff appearances since the 50s. And while he was there, he revolutionized his offense. He went from having like 90 rushing touchdowns in a season to doing it through the air. And in 1998, he set the Texas high school record with over 8,600 yards of total offense. And that's a total offense record in Texas high school football that before Briles stood for 70 plus years. I believe it was 76 years. That record stood until Briles broke it. Well, then he goes on to Houston from '03 to '07, wins 2 division titles, wins a CUSA conference championship, and was the CUSA coach of the year there. 34 and 28 over his time at Houston. Then he takes the Baylor job. And to give some just perspective of this, Baylor was atrocious. Baylor won 11 Big 12 games in the 12 years preceding Art Briles coming to Baylor. Briles won 17 conference games in his first 5 seasons. So he was absolutely setting the pace. 65 and 37, had 2 Big 12 championships, was the Big 12 Coach of the Year in 2013, was the AP Coach of the Year that year, had Heisman winning quarterback Robert Griffin III at his time there as well. He experienced large amounts of success in Baylor, and it is still because he could recruit the state of Texas so well due to his ability to connect with high school coaches in that area. He was able to recruit out of Houston, Dallas, just any big city in Texas. Art Briles can recruit. He knew people at these high schools. He coached a lot of some of these kids, and for Art Briles, he was very successful. If all the allegations and the investigations don't happen at Baylor, Art Briles potentially is still the coach there, which Dave Aranda is doing an excellent job there right now. But you're getting a guy who has had success everywhere he's been for the most part. And Art Briles is going to bring a new offensive identity to Grambling, which is something they really needed. What I think this does is really accelerates the potential in my expectations on Halloween coming in, on Noah Bowden or whoever starts for Grambling. That quarterback's going to have a lot of pressure, but now they're going to have the backing and the coaching to really be extremely successful in everything that they're going to try to do in that offensive scheme. You also got Maurice Washington at running back. You got some great wide receivers on the outside that I think are going to make a lot of plays. And so if that defense continues to be what it was for Grambling, I really do think the offense is going to take that next step. And I mentioned on my live stream last night, Grambling's my favorite for that division. And I don't know with this hire if I have any doubts about my pick. I think, in my opinion, I I think Grambling should absolutely win their division and be in the SWAC championship next year. I know it's year one, but with all the talent you got in recruiting, all the great coaching hires that you've made, there's no excuse for you not to be in the SWAC championship, in my opinion. I have very high expectations for Grambling going into the 2022 season. Now, the recruiting impact is going to be interesting. Grambling sits in Louisiana. They're going to recruit that state very hard. But right next door, you have Texas. And I'm just here to say, I know some people are going to give me pushback on this. Art Briles is going to be the best recruiter of Texas in the SWAC, and it's not even going to be close. Coach Prime is going to have some connections at the high school he coached at in the surrounding areas. But when you look at the entire state of Texas, nobody is going to have more success than Art Briles just because of his backing. He was just back coaching high school football just last year or and 2 years ago. He did it at Baylor. He did it at Houston. When you look at his history, this is the first job that he has had outside the state of Texas. And so Art Briles is going to recruit like a madman in Texas. And I think it's going to open up a pipeline that's really going to help project Grambling at the top of the SWAC in terms of recruiting rankings year in and year out because of his ability to connect with those high school coaches. And those previous connections are the number one thing in recruiting. And you see Coach Prime utilizing it now for Jackson State. Art Briles is going to be able to do that, just like we saw Hugh Jackson utilize his connections in Southern California to land some great recruits out west. Now, it's just going to separate himself. When you look at the top 10 all-time highest ranked recruits for Baylor, 9 of the 10 were landed under Art Briles. RG3, Ahmad Dixon plays for the Cowboys. Kendall Wright plays for the Vikings. Darius Jones was an amazing pickup for them as well. He can recruit. And what I think he's going to do is also utilize his ability of the transfer portal. The transfer portal, you have strong coaching connections due to your coaching tree. When Art Briles got fired, he sent a lot of the kids from Baylor to Gus Malzahn, who was in his coaching tree. He sent a lot of people to Hugh Freeze, and those connections helped those programs land some top kids when they were transferring out of Briles' program. I think he's going to be able to leverage that as well with some of these P5 transfers that he still has connections with and be able to help Grambling in the transfer portal as well. So I think overall, when you look at the connections, when you look at the recruiting, the offensive versatility that he brings, I personally think Art Briles, man, this hire, if I had to grade it, is an A plus. I really do, and I know there's going to be some people critical of off the field stuff. I'm looking at it strictly from a football point of view right now. This is an A plus because it's going to generate wins on the field, going to generate points and yardage. I would be shocked if Grambling didn't have the number one offense in the SWAC next year, the number one or number two, because Jackson State is going to be very good too. Questions about their OC. Connell Manor is going to be great, but this team is going to be able to generate a lot of points and a lot of yardage. And the misconception. Now, I talked about it on All Scripts channel with Scotty. It's not an air raid system per se. It can be, but it's really a power run game disguised as an air raid. So they're just going to go with the mismatch. If you spread everyone out, run a lot of dime nickel type stuff, and the box is empty, they're going to run it. They're going to run power. They're going to run right down your throat. And that's why you see him have a lot of 1,000-yard rushers at Baylor, is because he can run the football if you don't load the box. Well, then if you load the box, he's going to spread you out, and his quarterback's going to make the right read every time. He's very versatile in how he can attack you. Now, he is a pass first guy, but don't forget that power run game. It's very similar to what you saw Gus Malzahn do at Auburn, with Nick Marshall and those guys, and Cam Newton as well. So look for Art Briles not to abandon the run completely. Grambling is going to have a top rusher in the SWAC as well. He's just going to go with the mismatch. He can attack you through the air. He can get you deep, and he can also run it down your throat if you leave the box too empty. I need to do a film breakdown on his offense on this channel too, but that's just kind of a preview of what he's going to bring to the offense as well. But I really like this hire. I think it unlocks a whole new potential of what Hugh Jackson can do at Grambling. And I think Art Briles coming in to fix that offense was needed. If you look at the number one weakness of Grambling last year, it was their offense. And right now, they got two of the best offensive minds in the SWAC in that coaching room. I can only imagine the potential. And I'm very excited to see what he does on the recruiting trail as well come next season in this next 2023 recruiting class. But guys, comment below what you think of the hire, your grading, and everything like that. We'll talk about it more on the live stream Friday. I got the call in line fixed, so call in on Friday, get your opinions in on this, man, and let me know what you think about Art Briles being Grambling's offensive coordinator, man. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.